What I want to say today, what I want to talk about is if you've ever noticed the great percentage of time, or a majority of the time, we seem to get ourselves spun up about little things. And and they could be things that really just happen all by themselves, or maybe we cause them to happen, or maybe they just happen and we get kind of worked up about it. I heard a dumb little story years ago where Jesus was walking down the street and he saw Satan sitting on the curbside. And I got to remember how this goes. And he was crying. And Satan was crying, and Jesus walks up to him and says, "Why, Satan, what's the matter?" And he says, "It's those Christians. They keep taking away my work from me. They're screwing everything up." Meaning they do it all themselves. He doesn't have to do a whole lot of anything. And I'm not going to say Jesus consoled him, but the point of that is a lot of times we make things happen ourselves without any help from the devil. And it doesn't have to always be a pressing situation, but we're real good at making it a very pressing situation. For a lot of us, keeping our priorities can be a juggling act. Keeping them in check can be a juggling act. How many home moms do we have here? Mothers that stay home? 1, 2, 3, okay. 4, 5, all right. How many of you have kids? Well, if you're a mom, you have kids. How many of you have more than one child at home? 2, 3, 4, okay. All right. Okay. So, at times, there are times when you get really enamored with things. Kids, you can't wait till dad gets home. My son and my daughter-in-law, I have a son and daughter-in-law, my youngest son, and they live with me along with my other daughter-in-law and all my grandkids. And when he gets home, I hope she's not watching, but when he gets home, boom, he's got that kid. And she's just like, getting her wits about her and taking it easy for a while anyway. And but he's got that baby. And Ben's a good dad. He does a really good job. But it can be stressful. And so here we are juggling priorities, juggling things that we feel are very important, and some of them may be important. But And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we will try to make this happen and this happen and this happen at the same time, and kind of like sheep. We're not always real quick to understand, to get it. If God wants us to get something or get a point, we're not real quick to understand it or to get it. So we'll struggle and create situations a lot of times by ourselves. And God's trying to tell us, slow down, take it easy, rest in me. But we tend to toil and labor and do all kinds of things, and we will put ourselves sometimes in a situation where we get so stressed out, we can slip into being depressed, and all these things happen at one time, and we don't know what to do, and we just want to get out. And some people, I know there's nobody here, but I've heard of parents where, that's it, I'm done, I'm out of here, and they split. And they leave dad with all the kids. Or dad leaves mom with all the kids. And there they are, because they just couldn't take it. But as believers and followers of Jesus, the Messiah, how many believe Jesus is the Messiah? As followers of Jesus the Messiah, the work we do, or whatever we do for Him, or the kingdom of God. Whatever you do in His name, whatever you do for Him is profitable. All right? It's got profit. It can have gain. However, And I believe whatever you set your hand to do, God will bless you for it. And some people struggle a lot of times with that. They think, well, that may not always be God's will. They're praying about everything, and I'm not against praying for everything. But I mean, sometimes they pray for just silly things, like, I don't know if I should, go through this entrance at the Puyallup Fair, or if I should go to the E gate at the Puyallup Fair. Lord, which one should I go through? And God just doesn't care. He really doesn't. So you make certain decisions, and God will bless those decisions. I think the challenge comes when we fail to couple or combine worshiping Jesus with the situations that we're going through. In other words, we're real good at eclipsing God in situations in our life and trying to take them on by ourselves. And we kind of leave Him on the outside or on the sidelines. And so I want to read to you our text, Luke chapter 10. If you have a Bible. Does anybody bring a Bible anymore? Some people do. All right. I know it's on the thing up above here. I'm going to read out of the New International Version. And Luke chapter 10, and I know you've heard this story before. It's about two sisters, Martha and Mary. And Jesus and his disciples were out and about, busy, preaching the word, healing the sick, doing all kinds of miraculous things, ministering. And they decide to take a pit stop at Martha and Mary's house. I heard an interesting thing about Jesus, how he was, what's the word? He was functionally homeless. That was the term I heard. Functionally homeless. Do you know he was homeless? But it was by choice that he was homeless, meaning he functioned in that role because he was about the Father's work, and he was moving from place to place to place to place. But wherever he could lay his hat, even though he didn't wear a hat, that's just a term, wherever he could find a place to rest, he and the disciples would go from home to home to home of people that were near and dear to him, and he would take a break. So these people were some of those people. And so, here we go. Luke chapter 10, verse 38. We'll start at verse 38. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. And she came to him, and she asked him, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work here by myself? Tell her to help me." Do something. I'm doing everything. I'm doing all the prep work. I'm getting all the snacks and if they're staying overnight, the bedding, I'm getting everything ready for you and your crew. And she's sitting here at your feet listening to you talk. Tell her to help me. There's help right there. And so the Lord answered her, and he said, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things. But few things are needed, or indeed only one. And Mary has chosen what is better, and it's not going to be taken away from her." As you can see, Martha was stressed out. And she was stressed out about things that really didn't have directly a whole lot to do with the kingdom of God. It had to do with putting on the dog and making sure that he was comfortable. And you know, birds have nests and foxes have holes, but you know, the Son of Man had nowhere to lay his head. So he wasn't too worried about where he was going to stay. If he stayed somewhere, he was happy with that, satisfied with that. But it didn't have to be the Ritz, and it didn't have to be perfect. But something tells me that Martha wanted everything to be just fine. I don't even know if anybody asked her to do what she was doing, but she was doing it. But what appears to be here is that she's getting stressed out because Mary is just sitting there doing nothing but listening to Jesus. She's at the feet of Jesus, and Martha's doing all this work, and she's all stressed out. And although we have things to do, I don't know if you're one of these people, but how many of you believe that we can sometimes make things to do when we really don't have to do them? You know, I heard it said one time that time is a paradox. We never seem to have enough of it, but you will never have any more than what you have right now. You'll never have more than 24 hours in a day. So it's how you use the time that you have. It's how you prepare what it is you feel you need to prepare within that time frame. And if in that time frame you're being consumed by your tasks and you're spinning and toiling and you're getting stressed out, according to this scripture, something's imbalanced. True faith and obedience to Jesus, listen, will always be followed by good works. So we might argue, someone might argue that Martha was doing a good thing. She was setting up and trying to be a good host. And there are all kinds of good works that can be done. And, you know, I don't want to pick on her so much as I want to say that being actively involved in things is a good thing. I mean, there's all kinds of good works in the church. How many of you have been involved in the church at any one time? Or maybe you're involved now. I mean, there's a barrage of things you can do. You can get stuck in the nursery. I mean, you can serve in the nursery. No, you can serve in the nursery. Can I tell you something about the nursery, just right offhand? Years ago, I attended a church where we had the same issue with nursery workers. There was never seemed to be enough of them, and they'd always call out Sunday morning, and you were stuck with not enough people to watch the kids. And I was an associate on staff at a church at the time, and if the pastor was preaching, man, I was like, I'll do it. I'll go help. And I went in the nursery, and man, I changed poopy diapers and all kinds of stuff. And let me tell you something. I loved being in the nursery. I did. I really liked it. So much to the point where I kind of tried to get myself on the schedule as an associate pastor. And the pastor said, no, you're not going to be doing that. I need you too much over here. So I couldn't do it, but it was one of those tasks that it was a good work. Serving the little kids in the church so you can be here and listen to the message. Serving kids is a good thing. You can be involved in the church body. It could be, you could be connected with teaching a class, a Wednesday night class, or a Sunday morning class if we have one. Or you could be involved in the grounds or the custodial work here at the church. There's lots of good things, good works you can do. And they're all good things. You could demonstrate your works, your good works at work. If you're in a supervisory role and you oversee people, how you treat them can be considered good works. How good of a boss you are, how well you talk to them, speak to them. Let me tell you, sometimes I have some improvement. I'll tell you, I love kids, and I work with kids every day. Hundreds of kids every day. And people that work with kids. And there are needs, and lots of needs. And I do like my job, but there are times when it can be stressful. And I have to be careful how I speak to people, how I react to people's requests, how I do certain things. Because I can get super stressed out too. I mean, I can get behind at work. We have these things called work orders that somebody else used to do all the time. The maintenance secretary did them all the time. Well, now the custodians in the buildings have to do them, which means we have to create them, we have to update them, we have to perform them sometimes, we have to close them out, and it's just paperwork, and I get behind on it at times. But nonetheless, you can do good works all over the place. There's nothing wrong with good works. But if it affects your relationship with Jesus and the time that you spend with Him, something's not right. Something is not right. And if you've ever been stressed out, if you've ever been overwhelmed at work, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Hopefully it won't break. But if you get stressed out at home or at work, chances are you're probably more like Martha. And you're busy. You've got lots of things going on. You've got lots of irons in the fire. You've got a lot of priorities. But possibly it's eclipsing the priority of the time that you're spending at the feet of Jesus, worshiping Him. And you know, it's funny, all Mary did was sit there. That's it. Running out of time. She sat there. She listened. She worshiped at His feet. And He credited her with that and said, you know what? Mary has chosen a good thing. She's chosen the right thing. And in essence, what He was saying is, you're doing the wrong thing, Martha. Mary's doing the right thing. You're doing the wrong thing. So, balance, okay? I got to move here. What happens, though, is when we don't spend enough time with the Lord, here's what happens. When we're not in the presence of God, spending time with Him, here's what happens. You're going to start to see an effect in your personal life. Your tolerance level will be less. Your patience level will be less. Your compassion will be less for people. How about this? I know this isn't anybody here, but, not getting a seat at the pancake house after church and bolting out of here real quick, okay, versus maybe there's somebody here that needs to talk to somebody. And it's real easy. Listen, there are people with hurting hearts and hurts and needs all over the place. And we can justify it by saying, you know what, there will always be hurting people. I don't have time for everybody. But you know what? When you're not compassionate, when I'm not compassionate, when I oversee and I'm in such a big hurry to get out of here, or I'm in more of a hurry to get what's done at work or some project or hobby that I have at home versus my time with the Lord. I mean, I just want you to take a moment and do a figure in your head. In a 24-hour day, how much of that time you spend in the Bible? How much of that time do you spend fellowshipping with God? I'll tell you something. Jesus spent so much time. There were times where the disciples were like, hey, Jesus, where'd he go? Where is he? Oh, he's over the hill, man, praying. Man, again? Come on, Jesus. Is that all you do is pray? That's all he ever does is pray. But who was the one doing miracles? Who was the one keeping their cool when things were tense and stressed out? When the demon-possessed boy was screaming and hollering and beating people up and hurting people, and nobody wanted to go around him, who was cool as a cucumber? Can I say that? Who was cool and walked up and cast out the demons out of him? Who did that? Jesus did that. Jesus was ready because Jesus was equipped. And Jesus was equipped because he spent he spent time at the foot of the throne. He was always spending time with God. But I'm afraid that for a lot of us, there's an imbalance. And unfortunately, it at times makes us ineffective. I know I'm running out of time here. Is it okay not to care? I don't care. Here we go. No, I gotta move here. I want to kind of remind us, though, of that compassion. That's one of the biggest things I think you'll see go first. If you're not spending time with Jesus, one of the things that's going to happen is you're not going to care. You're not going to care about homeless people. You're not going to care about people on the side of the road that need a ride. You're not going to care about your relatives that are hurting. You're not going to care about all kinds of things that affect you or that God has allowed to be in your life. Did it ever occur to you, maybe, just maybe, you are that one person God has destined to affect or touch that other person's life? But if we're so wrapped up in other things and worried about other things, God bless Martha. I think her heart was in the right place. Her priority was not. And so she got stressed out. And she missed out. Here's a thought. I think that Martha was a Christian. I think she believed in Jesus as Savior. I think Mary was a Christian also. But here's a thought, okay? All disciples are Christians, okay? All disciples are Christians. But not all Christians are disciples. And that just basically means that you can come to Christ and then just kind of stop it right there. You're saved. You're on your way to heaven. You're going to make it. Maybe by the skin of your teeth. You're going to make it. But you've stopped taking in. You've stopped spending time with the Lord. You've stopped growing. You've stopped experiencing the love and the joy and the passion for people that Jesus had. That's kind of come to a standstill because you got things to do now. And that's a kind of a scary place. All disciples are Christians, but not all Christians are disciples. Simply put, a lot of Christians are people who give their life to Christ at church or on the street, over the TV, but that's as far as it goes. They don't put themselves at his feet after that. They don't seek his face. They stop changing. They stop growing. Looking to Jesus, listening, obeying him, spending time with him, being in his word. Here's the difference between, the real difference between Martha and Mary. Mary wanted to intimately know Jesus. Martha knew Jesus. Hey, good to see you. Come on in, stop by. Got a place for you. She knew him. But Mary, how many of you have friends? I knew it. Nobody likes you. You've got friends. How many of you have friends and then you've got best friends? You've got people you can talk to. You've got people that you can be intimate with. You've got people that you can confide in. This is how, there's a difference between knowing somebody and being intimate with somebody. And Mary was intimate with Jesus. She wanted him to know her heart, and she wanted to know his heart. And that only came by doing what she was doing, that was sitting at his feet. Poor Martha, she was so caught up in what she thought she had to do and what the priority was, she missed out. And all she could say is, tell her to do something, man. I'm stressed out here. Tell her to help me. And Jesus is going, you know what? I'm sorry, but what you're doing is not that important. I think he even makes reference to, you know what? It's not even needed. But what Mary's doing, this is what's needed. It's incredible. So communing with Jesus, just like Mary did, the Savior, her Savior, my Savior, your Savior. Do you understand that? He's your Savior. He's not just the statue on the dash of your car. Okay? He's not just the cross on the side of the church. He is the one who intimately loved you and gave his life for you and wants to. He knows you, okay, but he wants you to know him. And he wants to spend time with you. Because he knows if he could spend time with you, but that's the crazy thing. Jesus never forces himself on you to spend time with him. If you've ever met somebody kind of like that, it's kind of, I don't know, it can be kind of creepy. Just always kind of wants to hang out with you and maybe just, and you don't know them that well, but they just want to be with you and be with you and be with you. Let me tell you, it's not, when you get to know someone, really know someone, and you get to know Jesus, let me tell you something. It's going to change your life. It's going to change how you think. It's going to change how you feel. I'm going to be real honest with you. I probably shouldn't say this. This better not go on TV. But I've struggled for many years with homelessness and the situation that's stormed our country. I've struggled with it for a whole long time. Why don't these people just get a job? I thought that. But let me tell you something. Years ago, when I got saved, I was so on fire. Man, I was picking up anybody. My wife's like, what are you doing? I would be picking up hitchhikers in the middle of the night and then preaching to them in the car before I dropped them off. They're like, okay, that's great. Let me out of here. This is where I get off. But preaching to people. I would go down on the street. But I don't know how many of you remember this, but, 40 years ago down in downtown Bremerton, they did what they called cruising. And there were cars everywhere. And friends of mine and I, we were on fire for Jesus. Man, we would go down to the streets and preach down there. And people were getting saved. We were passionate. We didn't care how it was. But I tell you, we were passionately concerned. I got to wrap up, don't I? What? 5 minutes. But I was passionate. You want to be passionate too? I'll tell you, just quick sidestep story here. There was this one guy we met down on the street, downtown Bremerton. He called himself the Reverend Cooney. And I remember he looked a lot like me. He had long, straggly hair. He had a beard. And he smelled like tobacco, though. And he had his own Bible tracts he made. And he turned these things out. And they looked really good. He had a little stamp that said his name on it, Questions, call this guy. And I was pretty impressed with this guy at first. But then we had all these young people coming around and listening to the word as we're talking. And what ended up happening was as we're talking, we're talking to these kids, and he's got these kids' attention because he just kind of he looked like he was on the street, but these kids were listening to him about Jesus. But then he pulls out this paper, and then he pulls out this pouch, and he puts this weed in this cigarette, and he licks his cigarette, and he rolls his cigarette up. And as he's talking, I'm kind of like, what the heck here? And as he's talking, I'm kind of noticing every other word's coming out of his mouth is not always a good word. And the kids, when they see him take this joint out to light up this joint, I remember them saying, man, I want what this guy's got. And I thought for just a second, it kind of made some of us stand off, because I think what basically happened was they wanted the lifestyle that he had, but I'm not so sure that they wanted what he had. And if you're spending time with Jesus, let me tell you something. It doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you're not going to have habits or problems. Okay? God's patient, kind. His mercy endures forever. He will give you time. But you've got to make some decisions. And if you're spending time at his feet, I'm going to tell you something, saints. You're changing. I'm changing. If you're in the presence of God for a half an hour a day, just you and him, you're changing. But if all you're doing is complaining about how stressed you are at work and what's going on at work, and man, nobody's here to help me, or you're stressed about the church, or you're stressed about your life and just what's going on in the world. Let me tell you something. There's a lot going on in the world. I don't like it. I get so tired of hearing it. I don't even watch. You'll never get a hold of me on Facebook. Never. I got an account, but there's an old picture of me, but I don't talk on Facebook. I don't really want to hear what's going on. I don't do a whole lot of social media. I don't watch the news that much. Once in a while I read the paper, but not a whole lot. I'll tell you what, there's nothing, and I'm not talking about being uneducated. What I'm saying is there's nothing that's going to compare. You can be as knowledgeable as you want. It may stress you out more knowing what's going on in the world if you're not spending time with Christ. See, the important thing is spending time at his feet. That's the priority. That's how you're going to overcome. That's how you're going to make it. All right? So, you see, we got to become the righteousness of God through Jesus. Jesus is the righteousness of God, okay? But not all the tasks that we take on are a priority for him. Your biggest priority is to him and spending time with him. I'm going to challenge you this week. I want you to just try this. Maybe you already do this. Try this. Take 10 minuscule minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes to be by yourself somewhere. I don't care if it's on the way to work. I don't care if it's in your bedroom, in the closet. Go for a walk. But just you and him. I don't care if it's in the bathroom. But take 10 minutes and seek his face. Just 10 minutes. Well, God would be insulted by only 10 minutes. You start there. If you don't do 10 minutes is great. Start there and see what 10 minutes in his presence will do. Okay? Just try that. And then maybe it'll increase after that. But Jesus was always in the presence of the Father. And he was effective. He didn't have much. He didn't even have a place to lay his head most of the time. But he was empowered. And he did great things for God. And he loved people. I want to love people. You want to love people? How many of you want to love people, even though you find it very hard to love people? Yeah. I love people. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for your presence here this morning. Thank you for your word. Thank you for the example of Martha and Mary. And I know they both loved you, Lord. But you're showing us the priority here, the priority for our life, and the priority should always be you. We can get caught up in many, many things, Lord. Forgive us for the times we've been so enthralled and consumed by things that really weren't you. They weren't bad things, but they really weren't just you being in your presence. And God, as a result, it's kind of changed us. We're not as merciful anymore. We're not as tolerant anymore. We're not as compassionate as we used to be. God, forgive us. It's easy to get caught up in what's going on in the world. But God, we need to get caught up in you and your presence so that those things don't affect us and they don't affect our demeanor and how we think about people, how we think about the world and what we need to do. Father, I just pray for all the people here today. God, I pray that, Lord, you would touch them, Lord, and move them, Lord, just to spend a few minutes each week with you in solitude. And God, I pray that you'll show them the fruit that will start to grow in their life because of that, the way they'll start to change. God, thank you that you're so patient with us and kind and merciful. Lord, bless the pastors. Bring them home safely to us this week, Lord. Give us a great weekend.
I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me.